You're listening to the First Fight podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. Today's episode is one of my favorites so far, the legendary Eddie Alvarez. Eddie has been in almost every major promotion, and he's an all-around good guy and kind of embodies the spirit of a fighter, and I've been wanting to interview him for a while, and I'm lucky I got the opportunity to sit down and talk with him about how he got started in fighting, how his street fighting translated into an unlikely career. We talk about the importance of a good spouse and partner in this business and the power of believing in yourself. The lonely lifestyle of a fighter requires a really strong self-belief, and he goes into a little bit of that. And I could talk to Eddie forever because he is a super introspective person and has a lot to say about the industry. So I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I did. So today on the show, I have the Underground King, Eddie Alvarez. Thank you for coming on.
Good to be here. I'm excited.
So Eddie's someone I've wanted to interview for a while. He's has good storytelling, but you've been through it all, fought everywhere, every promotion. So I'm curious to hear how you got your start in fighting.
Yeah, so I wrestled in high school. I wrestled at North Catholic High School, and I think that would be like where my competitive combat career started. And right outside of high school, I got in a lot of street fights. I lived basically on my own with my brother and sister in Kensington and North Philly. My parents moved away to Florida, so at 18 years old, I was pretty much working, paid my own bills, and did my own thing. And I was hanging out with a group of guys who like to fight in Philadelphia. So I was able to get into bars, get into things like that from my brother's ID, and I found myself in a lot of trouble as a young kid. But competitively, I still wanted to compete. And although I was getting in street fights, MMA wasn't popular yet, but it was starting to make its way, and it was a natural transition for me to really see how tough I was as an 18 or 19-year-old to actually do a pro fight. So that's what I did. I thought about it for a while, got in a lot of street fights on the weekends. I gotten enough to where I was like, I might as well try to get paid for it. And Lou Neglia at the time was running Ring of Combat, and I think I fought on Ring of Combat 3 or 5, one of his very first shows in Elizabeth, New Jersey, exit 13A, on a snowstorm. I think it was the day of a snowstorm. Everybody from Philadelphia got a cheese bus. We got 2 cheese buses, I think. We put 2 kegs on the back of them. We were all around between 19 and 20-something years old. And about 75 people from Philadelphia drove up to Elizabeth, New Jersey, exit 13A at the Rexplex, and I fought in a basketball gym in front of about 100 people. And that was my debut with Lou Neglia. So how did you feel leading up to it? Were you nervous at all, or was it just another day for you? So the street fights I've been in were a lot more chaotic because there's no referees. You legit feel in danger and things like that. So I had a lot of chaos in my life on the weekends, a lot of chaos, and a lot of it was self-made. Maybe me just trying to get a thrill or compete, or unconsciously trying to compete again, but in the wrong places. But yeah, it was much more the chaos I was already living, just controlled, I guess, with a referee, with a sanctioning body, so in essence, I felt a little bit safer inside of a cage with people watching and people looking over your health and well-being. But still the same nervousness to foul, the possibility of fouling, possibility of getting knocked out was ungodly to think about. in your pro debut in front of all your friends and family and everybody.
So how did it go? Did you win?
So I'll rewind back real quick. I had to pay $500 for my medicals, and I only made like $250 of that back. So I was in the whole $250 for my first pro fight. I paid to fight my first pro fight, and this was in 2003, even before The Ultimate Fighter came on TV. So the sport in itself was kind of failing. It was on its way out, and then it was right before The Ultimate Fighter. And so I come out again. We're at a basketball gym. There's probably 150 people there, including all the judges and sanctioning body, and I fight a Matt Serra guy, Anthony Landata. Matt Serra, purple belt. Big guy, probably 30-something years old at the time, which was old to me because I was only 19. And we come out, and I think he hits me, and then I turn southpaw and go straight street fight. I went from, like, being clear-headed to I'm going to do this and that, and then I got into a straight street fight. I took him down. And I got him out, and I hit him probably 12 times. 11 of them shots were unanswered, like completely out, just beating on a corpse. The ref was way late with his call. He was knocked out after like the second punch, and there was probably 13 that came after that. So I'll go back to my corner. I'm all excited, hyped. All my friends and family are excited. We're all pumped up. And then Anthony Landata is like not getting up, and just not getting up. A minute goes by, 2 minutes go by, and I went from excited to like, oh shit, I just killed someone in my first fight, and this wasn't, I wanted to win, but I didn't want to hurt nobody. And then they gave him some smelling salt, and he still wasn't getting up. So it got the whole mood of the gym changed. It went from excited to okay, is everything all right? And then finally he popped up, and that was my first introduction to Matt Serra and Ray Longo, and met them guys.
Yeah. And
it was cool. And I think from there, my friends, fans, family, they wanted more. They wanted more and more. So we just kept rolling, kept doing the fights. But I tell you what, during the fights, I'm looking across from this guy. I paid $250 to do this. There's 100 people in the basketball gym. I'm like, this shit is such a dead end. I was thinking in my head, like, this is the worst hobby you could ever do in your life. Like, where are you going with this? And there wasn't any pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, there wasn't a UFC world title. There wasn't millions of dollars. It was me in a basketball gym fighting. That was all it was ever going to be, because nothing really came about like the way it is today.
So when did you realize that you could make a career off of it, a life out of it?
So I was able. Unlike a lot of fighters, I was able to accumulate a lot of money locally. I never needed the UFC from a really early age. Like, I never depended on the UFC to pay me to get by. I was locally, by the time I was my 7th or 8th fight in, I was making $30,000 to $50,000 a fight, just off my own ticket sales, merchandising, like shirt sales, everything that came with bringing 1,000 fans to Atlantic City. Promoters paid me well. I sold a lot of shirts, and I got a lot of sponsors, a lot of local sponsors. So, like, locally, I was able to do really well. I was blessed where a lot of fighters just didn't have the support and the following I had. Like, Philly came out strong and large every time I fought, no matter where it was. So they were the sort of the foundation of, like, my career. Without Philadelphia coming to my fights and doing that, I would have probably never been able to leave my job and just fight. I would have had to still do both for a long, long time before I was able to make the full commitment and the full jump over.
So was it hard for you mentally to do it before you realized it was something that was feasible as earning a living from?
So I did concrete work for 4 or 5 years and trained. I did both. And I never made the jump because I've been with my wife since I was 15. We had our first child when we were 20. So I needed to take care of my wife and my family, my kids, really early as a 20-year-old kid. So if I didn't, they needed stability. I couldn't put them in a fight life and been like, all right, if I fight, we're gonna make some money, and if I don't, we're gonna all drown and we're all gonna suffer. So I did concrete work, and that gave me a steady paycheck. I think I made like $45,000 a year. I got paid well for it. That was well when I was 19 or 20. I think I made like almost $30 an hour doing concrete work. And but I always felt like I'm so much better than this. I had a higher standard for myself, like of my life, like when I pictured it as a kid, like much higher standard than just doing some concrete work, coming home, living day by day, supporting my family. So it was actually like the energy I had inside, thinking that was going to be the rest of my life, I had so much energy I could do anything. Like I would come home, I train twice a day, I'd wake up 5 in the morning, do concrete, and do it all over again, and do it 7 days a week, because I was chasing what I had envisioned in my head for me and my family. I was really uneasy doing concrete work for the rest of my life. The idea of that made me really, I literally couldn't sleep.
Well, at what point did you realize that you kind of arrived?
So what happened was, locally, I did really well. I won a few world titles. I won a few promotional titles. Won a local one for reality fighting, and then won a world one for MFC and Bodog. I won their world titles. And then a billionaire, Calvin Ayre, started Bodog. And they offered me $30,000 a fight for 4 fights for the year. That's when I ran upstairs to my wife and was like, that's it, I'm done concrete. I was always a saver, so I had a good amount of money saved, and I said, I'm gonna be done, and then we're just gonna fight. That's it, I'm gonna fully commit to this. And I made a promise to the Lord, and I said, like, if you ever give me the opportunity to just fight for a living, I promise I'll never take it for granted. I'll treat it like a job. The same way I do this concrete, I wake up, I put hard 8 hours in, I come home, I'll do the same thing. I won't take this gift you give me for granted. And I didn't. I took it very serious. I probably worked more fighting than I ever did being an employee, of a construction company.
A lot of people don't. I talk about this a lot, but they don't understand how like unstable the fight game is, and they think it's glamorous, but they don't really know. Like, they think professional athletes, they get paid. Compared to other professional athletes, you don't get paid. You're an independent contractor, so anything can change. Your fight can be canceled. You can get injured, and then what happens? You're not making a quarter of your income for the year. So
you almost have to be. You had not only for yourself, because I always dealt with uncertainty well. Like as a child, I grew up I didn't have a lot of resources. I always dealt with uncertainty. I was made for uncertainty. I always had very optimistic in the face of things that were, not going to go well, or maybe we weren't sure if they were going to go well. So I was made for this sport. But you also have to need to get your life partner ready for this sport, and that takes a certain woman. It takes a really good woman to love her person enough to say, I trust that this ship that you're driving right here is going to stay afloat, and that you're going to get us to the other side. And I had that early, and I kept pushing my dream, and my dream for me and my dream for my family to my wife, and we would dream on it and sleep on it and believe it, to the point where she's right there, my number one fan. Like I would get beat, boom, this don't mean nothing, we're gonna be there. That I think is maybe the support of a good woman. I think is probably more important to a fighter, and only a fighter and an athlete would know this, than his actual team and teammates and everything like that, because you're with your partner all the time, and their opinion of you means everything. You could act as tough as you want, as bad as you want. Your wife's opinion of you and her belief in you is a serious driving force for a man, like really serious. And I've always had that. I've been lucky to have that. My wife believed in me, believed in our dream together, and we were able to kind of conquer this in the face of a lot of the uncertainty.
I was going to ask you about that because I know you've been through a lot in your career. You've been all, like I said, different promotions. I'm sure plenty of highs and lows, and you and Jamie have been together the whole time. I actually just talked about this with Rex when I interviewed him, the importance of your partner. And it's so true because fighting is such a lonely existence, I think. It's not the same as a team sport. And Frankie was talking about that on his podcast. Like, losing in fighting is not the same as losing in wrestling or losing with a team. It's a very low. And I'm sure you felt, the fans turn on you. Even if you have a good team, you don't always have that support, and that spouse is definitely, I think, if you have a good spouse or partner, one constant that you can have that can probably mentally keep you going.
The consistency is everything, right? So, like, I compare it to, like, and I grew up Catholic, and I compare it to, I have a lot of friends who are also, whatever religion, whatever God you believe in. But, like, a lot of things in people's lives, they have tragedies in their life, and they lose their faith completely. They say God don't exist. Like, something really bad happens to them, whether it's their wife dies, their kids die, something really tragic, and then they turn around and they say, you know what, God don't exist. They no longer see, like, or are able to be grateful because the pain of whatever happened to them is so bad that they lose sight of that. So, like, I compare fighting to that because you have this strong belief, faith, and hope for yourself, and along the way, that faith is shaken terribly, like really shaken in front of millions of people, millions of opinions, millions of critics, and you need to continue to practice it in that adversity, in that strong of an opinion or that loud of a bullhorn saying that you ain't shit or you suck and you're not everything you thought you were and you'll never be world champion, and all the doubters and all the loud voices that yell at you, that you need to be able to practice your faith and shut it all out. So it takes a consistency in your circle to let them, regrow that faith and keep it strong, and know that, like, whatever did happen was a small lapse, a temporary time, and that you'll get your turn. And but believing and hoping that you'll get your turn, because the only other option is hopelessness. So, like, in the end, it's your choice. You can choose to be hopeful or choose to be hopeless. So you might as well choose being hopeful, and you might as well believe and do everything you can to do that. And it's difficult. It's difficult because you will lose the faith of a lot of people who are close to you. You will, because they're just not as strong, or maybe not as secure and confident in themselves as you are. So you'll lose their faith along the way, and you'll be like, damn, they don't believe in me no more.
I talk about this a lot because I struggle with it. It's so hard finding that balance of, like, fighting. I feel like you have to be delusionally confident in yourself and in your dream.
100%.
But where do you draw the line when you also need to be aware of, like, your faults and the things you need to improve upon? So it's hard. Like, I struggled having that confidence and still knowing what I wasn't good at, But it's proof of the power of the mind, because you're gonna have, like, the lows are so low, and you hear all the little, like you said, the voices, and even in your loved ones, you hear, like, my husband's lost, and his family, they don't want to see him hurt, and the first thing they'll
first
say
thing
is
they
like,
wanna
it's
do is
okay
quit.
if you quit. Like, to me, it broke his heart to even hear that they want to protect him. But that translates to, I don't have faith in you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I realize, because I hear that, I realize that my expectations of them people who were saying that were too high. Mm-hmm. Why would I expect you to understand me in any way, shape, or form? Why did I expect that? It was me who was the fool, not them. Like, they don't fight. They don't need a deep faith. They don't need a deep hope in the wake of like an immense amount of adversity or immense amount of voices. They don't need that, and they never needed to practice that. I have, and I just lowered my expectations of them rather than take their word as being offended by it or in any way, shape, or form. I just lowered my own expectations. I went, look, this is completely normal for people who don't deal with this sort of adversity at a high level to feel this way, to want to run the other way when things get difficult. But as fighters, we're actually built the opposite. We run toward it in order to stretch and grow. And the truth is, we're not delusional. You know why we're not delusional is because people say, you'll never be this, you'll never be that. You only need to be champion you only need to do something great for a moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a moment. It's not forever. You're not going to be king forever. You're not going to hold the belt forever. But am I delusional for thinking for one moment in time I can do something great? Like, no, I'm not delusional. Like, anybody can. In fact, if I play the numbers, if I do it for longer than you do, with an intense amount of focus, the numbers are on my side, not yours. Yeah. So I'm not delusional thinking I can do something great for a small moment in time, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, in a course of a whole lifetime. I'm chasing something, and I'm a testament to it. And I think a lot of champions out there who were, put down and told they couldn't do something are also a testament to it. You only need to be great for a small period of time, and then you say, hey, I did it.
Well, it's you. I think throughout the journey, you take not value away, but you look towards other people to give you that confidence even less, because they do disappoint you, and no one can have that belief. But it's, like I said, lonely, but it's probably the most powerful thing too. Once you do achieve that, like the high is higher than anything, because you had to rely on yourself for that belief,
Only yourself. I compare it to like these lion tamers and these people in the circus. Like, look, I can control a tiger. Look at me. They get this euphoria out of controlling something so powerful. Like power this guy feels inside of a circus, telling this lion who could eat everyone in the place, do this and do that and twirl a hula hoop. Look at me. I can control something so powerful. Imagine that thing was yourself. Yeah. Imagine being able to say, I want to be champion. Now I want to make $1 million. Now I want to manifest this. And now I want to manifest this. That sort of control, there's nothing like it. And it's you literally, when you realize you have that control, if you're willing to take responsibility for yourself, then it's a fun game. It's like, what else can I manifest? I mean, I want a world title. Okay, you got one. All right, so I want to support my family and make millions of dollars. Okay, you got it. All right, now I want to. It's like becomes a fun game of delusion, and delusion until it manifests, right?
Well, I think like anything, and it starts just doing martial arts too, is it's something you exercise and get better at, You're first, it's like putting yourself out there. You're afraid to put yourself out there, or at least I was, to be in the spotlight and fail. Once you get used to like failing in front of people, I think, I don't want to say it gets easier, but it gets easier to go back out there after you failed,
I think it only gets easier because your perspective changes. And in the beginning, you have a bad perspective. You think, and the world thinks, since I failed, I must be a loser. And the truth is, great, you failed, because most people don't even try. So let's change our perspective on your failure and say, this is a great thing that you actually failed, because it means you fucking took a shot. You tried. You're already ahead of 90-something% of the rest of the people. Okay, now change your perspective and keep going forward. Now you're ahead of 95%. Now you're playing in the 5%. All right, now you're going forward. Now you lose. So little by little, you're changing yourself, and you're becoming a smaller percentage of what the overall population is. So you're at the 1 of 1%, and you know you're stretching yourself and growing to a level that, like, where you can inspire the other 99 in some way, shape, or form. You know,
I can see that. I mean, in all areas of your life, you're, I would say, a champ. You know, I admire, like, your family life that you guys have. You are all very close, and you're a good father, husband, and you're good, I think, successful as far as, like, diversifying your future and finding more to, you know, not just relying on fighting. You are a good example of what a lot of fighters don't do, is planning for the future after fighting. And you've definitely given my husband a lot of good advice on that. He definitely looks towards you, and anyone who knows you should, if they haven't, as far as advice after fighting.
Like, I can pinch myself every day, because fighting, like, from the day I started it and I was making good enough money, I've been pinching myself every day, like, this isn't true. Because my only first goal, one of the only real goals I made, was so I can do this for a living. And then when I got to do that, I had to pinch myself every day, because I was able to. Now maybe 12, 13 years gone by, I haven't had a job. And that was my only goal, was I don't want a job. I just want to be able to wake up and do what I want to do. I want to be able to train and do what I want to do, not answer to a boss, not. And 13 years went by like that, like a blink of an eye. And I still pinch myself. And luckily enough, I accumulated enough money and enough prizes during this whole stretch where, I can kind of plan for the future and things like that. But at any point during this 17 years of fighting, it could have been gone. It could have been gone the first year, second year, third year. You need to be ready. My obligations to my family, and first and foremost, they played this game with me, and I would consider myself a complete failure if we played this game for 17 years and I told them, we're all going to struggle when I'm done. I'd be so upset with myself. I wouldn't be able to function. So a big part of my driving force is repaying the people who supported me the whole time. And by doing that is giving them a comfortable life, letting them be able to experience things, travel, and do things that maybe some ordinary people can't do. And I owe that to them. My family is everything to me. So I want to do that. I don't want to show up at a UFC fight and ask for a ticket and stuff like that. Like when I'm, 40-something years old.
Yeah.
I want to buy VIP seats for my whole family. I don't want to ask anybody for anything. Yeah, I want to earn everything I get. And I did it with, my body for 17 years. And in my next 20, I want to do it with my brain. You know what I mean? I want to be able to strategize and make moves financially start using my brain, which is can last a lot longer than my body. Yeah.
I'm happy for you, and a lot of people, I think, should look to you as an example. It's not common to find someone is you kind of embody the quintessential fighting spirit, but you're also calculated about your career and your future, and that's kind of the total package. I'm happy to see you find success that way and influence other fighters in that way, because it's tough seeing them sacrifice everything. You have to, to be successful in it, and to not come out at the end winning, to a point where you can make a living and, take care of your family. It's amazing that you were able to do that.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I'm like, what, I don't want to go from being world champion to applying for Home Depot at the end of it all. It's like,
Yeah.
is it a possibility? Fuck yeah, it is 100%.
Yeah.
That is a real possibility, and a likelihood of most MMA fighters is that they're gonna live this dream for so long, and then they're gonna apply to Home Depot or something. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's honor in any job, but to put this sacrifice in and not put an ounce of your brain power behind it and planning and strategizing with the dollars that you achieve with this, you're missing a whole section of the whole game. You know what I mean? You know, it's brutal work in your body, large paychecks, but there's a whole section of planning and strategizing that you're missing if you don't come out of this, you know, with a safe plan for you and your family.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about. I could talk to you about this forever.
Hell yeah.
I love. This is why I do this, because I love the stories and the people behind it. You know, it's not just what you see. That's just. I always say that what you see in the cage or the ring is like 1% of it all, and it's a really honorable life to live, I think, that a lot of people don't understand, and it has a lot of parallels to just the tragedies of life in general. Fighting does, I think, and I enjoy hearing stories behind it, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This was cool.
Thanks again, Eddie. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this interview, and I hope everyone else enjoys it as well. Eddie has a lot of good advice, and like I said earlier, we could go on for a while talking about fighting and all the different things that come along with it. So thanks again for taking the time. We're looking forward to seeing you fight soon in April, and thank you everyone else for tuning in and listening again. We'll have more interviews, some more special interviews of different people in the industry. And as usual, you can go to my website, firstfightpodcast.com. And you can also go to our Instagram page if you're not following to stay up to date on all our upcoming episodes at The First Fight. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.